Number 1. Surgery in a blackout. The doctor healing children's broken hearts. From CNN, the masked man had already cut her chest open when the lights went off, plunging the entire room into darkness. This was not good. In fact, it was downright dangerous. A power outage is probably the last thing anyone would want to happen midway through surgery, let alone while performing the delicate task of closing a hole inside the heart of a 6-year-old girl. But Dr. Gordon Godfrey and his team had come prepared. We knew that we always have power cuts in the hospital. They can happen at any time, even at night. So we had prepared a backup manual handle that we could use to run the pump by hand, says Godfrey, who works at the Bagamoyo Medical Center in Mwanza, North Tanzania. A reliable and constant electricity supply is crucial when performing open-heart surgery. The procedure is done under general anesthesia and requires the use of an electrically powered machine that acts as the patient's heart and lung. Birth advised by text messages. Godfrey and his team also knew that it usually takes several seconds for the hospital's back-up generator to kick in after a power failure. Therefore, they previously connected the heart, lung, and anesthesia machines to an unitary portable power supply in case of an emergency. Even though all the lights in the operating room went off, the machines themselves were still working, recalls the young doctor. So this was what actually saved us that day, saving lives. That day was late this month, right after Godfrey had returned to Tanzania from Israel with a skill no one else in his country has. Following 5 years of intense training, Godfrey is now Tanzania's only pediatric heart surgeon capable of carrying out open-heart surgeries on small children. Upon his arrival, he started operating on young children, including 6-year-old Marina, with the assistance of the Israeli team who'd trained him. Although we had all these problems in the surgery, the child recovered very well and she left the intensive care unit the next day, says Godfrey about Marina. So this was very good. Somebody has to do something. The son of a doctor, Godfrey grew up in Moshi, a beautiful small town nestled on the foothills of Mount Kilimanjaro. He went on to become a doctor himself and started practicing about 7 years ago, setting his mind to becoming a plastic surgeon. But at that time, a Tanzanian surgeon who'd returned home from the UK with the aim of starting a cardiac center, recruited Godfrey to his team. It's when I started working with him that I realized that in Tanzania we really don't have so much need for plastic surgery, says Godfrey. I realized children are the ones who are suffering most in Africa. We have so many children with heart disease dying without any care, and those few lucky ones, the government gets to send them abroad for surgery, he adds. Determined to make a difference, Godfrey approached doctors visiting the hospital, asking them to help him find a way to create a Tanzanian team that could do pediatric heart surgery. Eventually, he got in touch with Save a Child's Heart, an Israeli organization providing heart surgeries and care to children from developing countries. After securing funding, Godfrey headed to Israel, where he trained for 5 years with Save a Child's Heart before returning to Tanzania and putting his life-saving knowledge to use. Somebody has to do something, and this is one of the reasons I came back, says Godfrey. But do I feel confident that I will be able to build a good department and a good team? Well, not really, he readily admits. So I'm also very terrified of the fact that I'm worried that I may not be able to build this good team. But again, it's this worry which will keep me up on my feet every day trying to push a little bit harder. Urgent needs. When it comes to impoverished African nations, the focus often tends to be on AIDS, malnutrition, and malaria. But there are a multitude of other medical conditions that require urgent attention, such as children's heart problems. In Tanzania's largest referral and teaching hospital, some 300 children a year await surgery. There are thousands more in need across the country. Godfrey says there are at best just 5,000 doctors in Tanzania, a country where more than 70% of the 45 million population lives in villages, often far from hospitals or equipped medical centers. He says this puts a big burden on doctors who often have to work under extremely challenging conditions. Many doctors don't want to even go out of the big cities, he explains. Every doctor wants to work in a place where there's at least some medication. There's even a ward that they can also provide this kind of care. Now going to the village with all the knowledge that you've acquired and you still cannot manage to do anything. These are places no doctor wants to go. Healing hearts. Inside the Bangendo Medical Center, the overwhelming need for doctors and trained medical personnel is evident. At the hospital's children's ward, the beds are occupied at all times by 2, sometimes 3, very sick children, while young patients with heart problems and their families lie on benches outside examining rooms. Is a far cry from the world where Godfrey trained in Israel. Working in Israel, says Godfrey, one of the things that struck me most at the beginning was that we could spend 6 months and not even see one child dying, while here in a dead one pediatric admission, we could see even 5, sometimes up to 7 children dying. He adds, you realize that we still have a very long way to go. But despite all the challenges, Godfrey is determined to continue his life-saving efforts and build a team that will heal as many of Tanzania's broken hearts as possible. Now I'm even thinking of the ways to push my department forward, says Godfrey. I know I don't have a complete team yet. Some are still in training back in Israel. But it is my hope in the next few years that we will have a complete team, if everything goes well. Number 2, 3-decade gridlock broken. The nuclear deal with Iran in Geneva, Switzerland, CNN. The diplomatic gridlock between Iran and the West seemed immovable for decades. But on Sunday, diplomats made history when Iran and 6 world powers came together on an agreement over Iran's nuclear program. The deal dials back Iran's ability to work toward a nuclear weapon and at the same time loosens the chokehold of international sanctions on Iran's economy. The two sides now have 6 months to find out how historic the breakthrough really is. That's the direction of the preliminary agreement hammered out in Geneva, Switzerland, by Iran and the P5+1, the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council plus Germany. There are lots of things, regrettably, that we still have to work on. Our hope is that Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and Foreign Minister Javad Zarif want to build his different relationship, want to show in clear ways as we go forward that the program is peaceful. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry told CNN's State of the Union. 20 questions about the deal. Iran has stumbled from one economic crisis to the next under the sanctions, and unemployment currently runs over 24%. The briefing room is intended to buy Iran and the negotiating powers time to arrive at a more comprehensive agreement, but it represents an opportunity, not a guarantee. It's a little too early to break open champagne bottles and put on the party hats on this one, said Middle East diplomatic expert around David Miller. Its success hinges on whether or not it leads to a bigger agreement to put Iran's nuclear weapons program to rest. That the developments came to any accord at all represents a momentous budget in a nearly 35-year deadlock market marked by distrust, suspicion, and open animosity between the United States and Iran, which broke off diplomatic relations after Iran's revolutions in 1979. It was the first such agreement in 10 years of attempts to negotiate over Iran's nuclear program. What happened over the last several weeks is by and standard extraordinary, Miller said. Kerry told CNN that it will be vital to verify Iran's compliance with the deal. None of this is based on trust. It's not a question of trust, he said. It's a question of having the verification and the intrusive inspections and the insights into the program and the commitments that can be held accountable, so that you are in fact creating a fail-safe mechanism by which you are making your judgments. Read the deal PDF. Success or setback. Reactions to the breakthrough ran the gamut from joy in Iran to dismay in Israel. In a Tel Aviv speech, Rouhani thought it as a win for his negotiators. We are pleased after 10 years that an agreement on this level has been reached, he said. He played up the fact that the deal allows Iran to enrich uranium to a level making it usable as nuclear fuel. During the 6 months of the agreement, major facilities in Iran will continue doing so. He said that level 5% enrichment is well below the level needed to make weapons. The deal also marks the beginning of the end of sanctions. Rouhani said. Farzin Zakira said what critics are getting wrong about the Iran deal. The announcement was extremely popular with Iranian citizens. They believe that it's a golden opportunity to improve relations with the West. Everyone in Iran is very happy, Ali, a factory manager, told CNN. Iranian people want to cooperate with all countries so we can make a best life. Iranian people are not dangerous. He said life with sanctions has been difficult for young people like him. In the end, Iran's insistence that it has never sold nuclear weapons will be vindicated, Rouhani said, and that notion will go down as a historical joke. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, traditionally very distrustful of Western powers, seemed pleased. This could be the basic of intelligent actions of the future, he said. U.S. President Barack Obama took to live television to announce the deal as a success that includes substantial limitations that will help prevent Iran from creating a nuclear weapon. He and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke about the deal Sunday. According to White House Deputy Press Secretary Josh Earnest, speaking to reporters on Air Force One as Obama traveled to Seattle, Earnest said the two leaders had a useful discussion for about a half hour. The two countries are committed to the same goal, making sure Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon, the spokesman said, but decades of mistrust run deep. Obama's Republican opponents is Washington scored the deal, and key ally Israel frowned upon it. Both say it will have the upside effect, advancing Iran's alleged quest for a bomb. This agreement shows other rogue states that wish to go nuclear that you can obfuscate, cheat, and lie for a decade. And eventually the United States will tire and drop key demands, said freshman San Marco Rubio of Florida. Breaking down the deal. Netanyahu's obligation to defend. Netanyahu adamantly distrusts Iran and decried the agreement as a historical mistake on Sunday. For decades, he has listened to Iranian leaders threaten the Jewish state, one even saying Israel should be wiped off the map. During the negotiations in Geneva, Khamenei responded to passionate Israeli skepticism by saving Israeli officials cannot be even called humans and referred to Netanyahu as the rabid dog of the region. Now that sanctions are working, Netanyahu wants to see the thumb screws tightened, not loosened, until Iran shuts down much of its nuclear capability, which Tehran claims it will use only for peaceful purposes. The agreement does not apply to Israel, he said Sunday. If need be, Israel will take matters into its own hands, he said. The regime in Iran is dedicated to destroying Israel, and Israel has the right and obligation to defend itself with its own forces against every threat. I want to make clear as the Prime Minister of Israel, Israel will not let Iran develop a nuclear military capability. Israeli President Shimon Peres backed up Netanyahu's show of strength, but also extended an olive branch. I would like to say to the Iranian people, you are not our enemies and we are not yours. There is a possibility to solve this issue diplomatically. Peres said he called on Iran to drop ambitions of acquiring a nuclear weapon and end support to terrorists threatening Israel. Kerry Israel safer. Kerry thinks Israel became safer from an Iranian threat on Sunday than it was on Saturday, he told CNN's Candy Crowley. Israel is threatened by what has been going on in Iran, he conceded, but it is better to have a chance to put Tehran's program in reverse than to let it secretly roll forward toward creating a nuclear bomb. It's not about getting cozier with Iran, Kerry said. We are open not to be duped and not to be intrigued and not to be led down the primrose path, but open to setting up a verifiable, clear process, Kerry said. British Prime Minister David Cameron said Iran will still feel the pressure of sanctions. We will continue to enforce sanctions robustly in order to secure a comprehensive and final settlement that fully addresses the real and substantive concerns of the international community, he said. Washington skeptics. In the weeks before the start of the negotiations, U.S. legislators appear to be obligating Netanyahu as they consider loading new sanctions onto the Islamic Republic. If that happens, Obama may have to veto them, Kerry said. New sanctions would torpedo the deal. But Kerry said he will assure Congress the deal supports its goal of preventing Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. Obama has said that the agreement only involves some of the sanctions, leaving the toughest ones in place. The agreement is not about trusting Iran. It is about being able to verify the country's complaints, a White House official said. The UN's nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency, said it is ready to inspect and monitor Iran's nuclear activities. It called the new deal another important step forward. If things go sour, all options are still on the table, Obama has said, including military strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. Obama may need to talk with Saudi Arabia, which has lasting tensions with Tehran and has been at odds with Obama over much of its Middle East policy. The government expressed displeasure Sunday with a preliminary deal. The Saudi government has been very concerned about its negotiations with Iran and unhappy at the prospect of a deal with Iran. A Saudi government official who is not authorized to speak to the media told CNN. One agreement widely different reactions. All about enrichment. The White House and Zarif both insist that the agreement meets their expectations on the issue of uranium enrichment. Iran has consistently said it is enriching uranium and building nuclear reactors only for peaceful civilians' energy needs. Nuclear power plants use uranium that is enriched to 5%. It's the fuel that the plants use to generate electricity. The White House has said Iran's enrichment may not go above that. Iran must also dilute to at or below 5%, half of its stockpile of near 20%. Enrich uranium and convert the rest to a form not suitable for further enrichment before the end of the initial phase of the deal. It may not turn on certain centrifuges, the devices used to enrich uranium, that have not yet been brought online. This is in line with the terms of the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons which Iran has signed. It requires Tehran not to create nuclear weapons or enable other countries to obtain them. Iran has also agreed to what Kerry described as unprecedented international monitoring of its nuclear power. Opinion: Iran deal a risk worth taking? The Rouhani differences. This final round of negotiations in Geneva stretched for 40 days, but began months ago in secrecy. Shortly after Rouhani replaced Mohammad Ahmadinejad as Iran's president earlier this year. Ahmadinejad's foreign policy rhetoric was marked by caustic jabs at the United States and bellicose threats toward Israel. He railed against economic sanctions and drove the advancement of nuclear technology. Rouhani has struck a more conciliatory tone and made the lifting of sanctions against his country a priority. U.S. and Iranian officials for months have been holding previously secret discussions to generate ideas for the wider nuclear negotiations. A senior Obama administration offshore conference Saturday. The Americans briefed their P5+1 colleges. It led to formal negotiations in Geneva. Catherine Ashton, the European Union's foreign policy chief, led the working negotiations to their near conclusions. Then, to pound out difficult details, she called in the heavy lifters on Saturday. Kerry, his British counterpart William Hague, French's Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, and Russia's Foreign Policy Chief Sergei Lavrov. Shortly after 3 a.m. local time Sunday, a tweet from a European diplomat led that there was a deal. An hour later, an Iranian college followed suit. Minutes later, Ashton made the official announcement. A diplomatic mountain had been moved. Number 3. How do you get rid of Syria's chemical weapons? Provide industry may help. From CNN. How do you dispose of Syria's chemical weapons stockpiles? Call in private industry. The Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons announced Friday it has invited chemical disposal firms to let the group know if they are interested, but added that it's working on a tight schedule. The request for expressions of interest comes a week after the organization's Executive Council asked its Director General to explore options for destruction in chemical disposal facilities of chemicals that Syria has declared. The announcement lists 19 chemicals. Most of Syria's declared chemical weapons program includes common industrial chemical or otherwise chemicals that can safely be rendered harmless or destroyed, the OPCW said. An estimated 1.8 million pounds, 800 metric tons, accounting for a major part of Syria's stockpile, is to be disposed of commercially at a cost estimated at $47 million to $54 million, it added. The companies will also destroy the influence resulting from the effective destruction of higher priority chemicals. But hurry, the closing date for receipt of an expression of interest is November 29. A joint OPCW United Nations team charged with overseeing the destruction of the weapons began inspecting sites in October. The UN Security Council resolution that authorized the mission set a deadline of mid-2014 for Syria to destroy its chemical weapons or face consequences. The OPCW said it expected that the most critical chemicals would be removed from Syria by the end of 2013. The UN resolution on serious chemical weapons was based on a deal struck between the United States and Russia that averted an American military strike over allegations the Syrian government used sarin nerve gas in an August 21 attack on a Damascus suburb. U.S. officials say at least 1,400 people died in the attack. I have finished my read. Thank you.